169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got offered the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487.50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
This is the sound of the Ronson family on a Friday night, snuggled on the sofa eating a Munch's sharing pack. The Smiths enjoying fruit pastels. Mum and Katie eating Milky Bar buttons. Jen and Sal's Aero Bubbles. Billy and Claire scoffing Kit Kat bites. All these lucky people won a Sky Store movie worth $9.99 with their Nestle sharing packs. There are 50,000 to be won. See special packs for details.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
U.S.-China trade talks and economic data are the focus of investors. We break down what you need to be watching as we head toward the first trade on Wall Street.
Plus, fishing for answers on the state of the consumer with Dick's Sporting Goods CEO Ed Stack.
And Elizabeth Warren's tax feast. We digest her proposals and tell you what each would mean for Americans as the second hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Live from the beating heart of business, New York, this is Squawk Box.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Sorkin. We're taking a look at the U.S. equity futures this morning, and they've come under pressure this morning. In fact, the Dow futures are now indicated down by about 200 points. This pressure has built up and really accelerated over the course of the last hour. A lot of concerns about what's been happening out there with the China trade talks, also tensions with Brexit talks. All of those have accelerated losses in the European markets as well. You can see right now the S&P futures are down by about 24 points. NASDAQ is off by 61.
Okay, let's talk about some stories making headlines right now. The British pound under pressure this morning, this on increasing doubts about a Brexit deal. According to a Reuters report, German Chancellor Angela Merkel has told British Prime Minister Boris Johnson that a deal is essentially impossible under current circumstances. That report notwithstanding, British negotiators are still holding talks with European Commission representatives today. And we're going to be getting fresh inflation data in about 90 minutes. The September Producer Price Index expected to show a rise in headline inflation of 0.1%, with the ex-food and energy inflation rate up 0.2%. Also, small business optimism declining last month. The National Federation of Independent Businesses says that its monthly index fell to 101.8, that from 103.1 in August. The China trade dispute and tariffs were cited as primary reasons for uncertainty among business owners.
A few stocks on the move this morning. Boeing trading lower, sharply lower. New report says friction between the U.S. and European regulators could delay the return of the MAX, the 737 MAX to service. Separately, Southwest Airlines Pilots Union has filed a lawsuit against Boeing, alleging that the grounding of the 737 MAX has cost them more than $100 million in lost wages. We're going to talk to an analyst a bit later this hour about this situation. It has paired, the stock has, its losses to some extent. It was down over 8 earlier, now down about 6.5. Microsoft was upgraded to buy from hold at Jefferies. The firm's price target increased to $160. Meantime, Jefferies is downgrading Oracle, though, from buy to a hold, and the price target is being cut to 60. So, okay, they had a higher price target and a buy, and it's well below 60. It's turned south, so they're kind of throwing in the towel.
The call on Microsoft from Jefferies was an interesting one. They're saying that they think this company can continue to really knock it out of the park for a long time to come. It was more of a, look, we are believers in the platform and what they're doing, and what Satya Nadella is doing.
160, I can't do the math in my head, but it's 1 trillion... It's 1,046 billion. I need scientific notation to get this right, but it's almost That'd put it well above 1.1 trillion.
Yeah.
For good old Microsoft. I guess they still sell some Windows stuff.
There's a lot of cloud stuff that they've done so well with, all kinds of things. Wall Street in wait-and-see mode right now as investors await those high-level trade talks with China later this week. There is some concern around it, and that's probably a big part of the reason that you've seen the futures down this morning. Kayla Tausche joins us right now with the latest on what's happening and what we can expect. Kayla, good morning.
Good morning, Becky. The Trump administration is raising the stakes for talks this week, banning 20 Chinese security bureaus and 8 video surveillance companies from purchasing American parts without licenses. The Commerce Department is punishing companies it alleges have assisted in China's detention of Muslim minorities. The move, first expected in June, was shelved ahead of the U.S.-China truce at the G20, and 2 of the companies affected that you see right here have been halted in trading in China. No word from Commerce on why the decision to do this now. Next Tuesday, tariffs on $250 billion in Chinese goods will rise to 30%, barring another truce this week. Tensions are ratcheting up even as messaging from Washington is starting to warm. In a September 20th press conference, President Trump twice said the U.S. is looking for a complete deal. I'm not looking for a partial deal. Asked the same question yesterday about China trade talks, President Trump said this.
I think that we just have to see what happens. I would much prefer a big deal, and I think that's what we're shooting for. Can something happen? I guess maybe. Who knows? But I think it's probably unlikely.
Still leaving the door open there. And yesterday, NEC Director Larry Kudlow said the White House would see whatever the Chinese delegation brings and that he sees opportunity for progress this week. We should note the administration does not craft those messages lightly, so we will see what happens in the coming days. Joe?
All right, thank you. Let's talk more about this. Let's welcome Chris Campbell, former Assistant Treasury Secretary with the Trump administration. He's now Chief Strategist with Duff and Phelps Institute, a consulting firm. There's a wink and a nod that this has nothing to do with trade? I'm sure that the Chinese think it does, but we're saying it doesn't. Does it or doesn't it?
Look, I think that I'm optimistic. I think we're optimistic about the future of the negotiations. So I think that things are trending in a better direction.
But is this the time that you would do the blacklisting of the companies, or is this sending another? China does things too. They've got other ways of needling.
You're 100% right. I think what happened is that we came pretty close to a deal several months ago. There's we remember that there's anti-U.S. forces in China, just as there are anti-China forces in the United States. And when I think respective folks came back to their respective corners, you had some pushback. I think so. What we've seen in the past several months is some cage rattling and some resetting of the expectations within each country and each market. Which sets the tone and the stage for, I think, some good talks coming on next week, and I think that's how our government sees it, and I think that hopefully that's how China sees it.
It seems like it's gotten much more complicated, has it?
Oh, there's no question about it. Like President Trump obviously has raised tariff and non-tariff barriers, and I think probably expected to do some more in the future. Chinese are certainly doing what they can to piece their anti-U.S. forces in China. But at the end of the day, I think that there's some reason for optimism.
Although it seems to me that the Chinese are also saying, look, here's the things that we're willing to discuss and what we aren't. And by narrowing that before you even get in the room and you sit down together, I mean, that's part of the reason I think some of the optimism is left.
I think that it's important to think about this. We obviously don't talk about this often this way, but I think that the Chinese, so in the United States, we have challenges. President Trump is taking on China like no other president has. But in China, they have to have access to our U.S. markets that are facing increased tariffs. If they don't, there's going to be a real challenge in how they get back into our markets. And so I think that the next week is going to be complicated as we continue the conversation. But I think at the end of the day, I think we're very bullish on a good talks.
Really? The idea was floated here about a narrower scope, like 3 weeks ago. Maybe we do a narrower, maybe we don't do it. And then it was rejected because people said, come on, what are we in this for? We're trying to, now we hear from China. We're taking certain things off the table. Industrial policy issues are now off the table. So both sides have pretended that maybe they're going to try for a kick the can down the road deal. But there's political forces on both in China and here that are moving this towards maybe a half measure. No,
I think they're setting expectations low.
Is that what it is?
I think so. I think again, China has one more challenge, and that is that if they're going to get to a deal, they're going to have to get some strong intellectual property protections. They're going to have to do a comprehensive deal. That's where Lighthizer and the administration
isn't that covered under industrial policy? It's not a coincidence. Intellectual property is IP. Industrial policy is also IP. They said they were taking IP off the table. They can't do it.
We'll see.
How much impetus is behind President Trump's efforts now, given that he probably doesn't want. Who knows with him? I don't know. He's got a lot of balls in the air all the time, it seems like. Now we got the Syria situation. Does he want to get this off the table with all the other?
No question. I think a big win for him would be great right now. The other thing is
China probably wouldn't want to give him a big win. Would it?
Well, I think you're China. You think of it this way: Chinese folks are smart. It's a really smart economy over there. They have to, if they face a Democratic administration next time, as you're in your conversation earlier this morning, there's a delegation of Democratic congressmen in Mexico. What are they looking at? They're looking at labor, human rights, and other social issues that are non.
Kramer's been making that point that Elizabeth Warren might not necessarily be a more favorable candidate or president in the views of the Chinese than Donald Trump.
I've been doing trade policy for a long time. I've never seen a Democratic administration that does not include labor, human rights, and other issues that are non-economic in trade agreements. Chinese are great, and those are all very, very important issues, but I just can't imagine China's going to sign up for any of those.
Andrew, that's kind of interesting, right?
No, I mean, look, there is a view that Elizabeth Warren is farther left.
You've been pointing out that maybe they want to wait this out till the election. Maybe it isn't in their best interest.
Well, that's the question of what would really happen. I think you'd actually I think if Elizabeth Warren were in that role, she would be probably potentially harder, but harder in a different way, because you'd probably bring others into the group. You'd be back into a TPP situation. I mean,
remember what they were going to? They were going to wait it out for Biden. He loves China.
There's no chance even Biden is going to insist on significant labor rights.
They'd love Biden, probably.
which means you're going to have labor unions.
But irrespective of all that, if you're President Xi and you got your popping your popcorn watching this show in D.C., are you saying to yourself, I want to make a deal right now with these folks at this, because of this whole thing may get reversed or changed?
The dynamic has changed.
No, I'm not sure.
But as Biden has come down and Elizabeth Warren has risen, I bet you that dynamic has changed on who they'd want.
And look, and they've been watching trade policy for a long time as well. And then a re-elected Trump. I mean, who knows where he's going to go? I mean, he could go,
that might have.
Go ahead.
Very quickly, there's a headline that's out there this morning, and we have seen some additional weakness in the futures after it came out. The White House is looking to limit China in terms of being able to put stocks in government funds. What does that mean to you? Is this a negotiation tactic? Is this something that...
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's it's always concerning to have Chinese government dictate the winners and losers as well. So I think we're a free market society and free market economy here, and we obviously want to mirror and have the expectations of negotiating and dealing.
I'm sorry, limiting Chinese stocks in U.S. government funds.
Yeah, I think that's largely
same sort of thing.
Yeah, negotiating tactic. Yeah.
All right, Chris Campbell, thank you. See you again soon. You're optimistic, though, and you're not just saying that.
I know a couple people in D.C.
You know a couple people in D.C. Okay, all right.
We got to run. Squawk Box returns right after this.
When we return, he started working at his father's bait and tackle shop when he was 13 and turned it into a retail behemoth. Ed Stack, the CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods, joins us to discuss the state of the consumer, chances of a recession, and what he's hearing from the highest ranks of retail on the state of the economy. That interview is next, right here on Squawk Box.
The office waste paper bin. Old documents, expired contracts, now just crumpled up paper. It doesn't sound risky, does it? Security breaches involving sensitive and confidential information continue to rise. Can you be sure all your information is secure? Book a free 30-minute data security survey with Shred-it, the document destruction experts, to pinpoint security risks specific to your industry. Search free survey Shred-it to book yours today. Shred-it. We protect what matters.
Otto Sergey now checks for better energy deals so you don't have to. Meaning we can all sit back and relax. Can't we, Sergey? Sergey?
Hey? What?
Tell the people that we can sit back and relax.
Oh, we can sit back and relax.
Oh, don't waste energy worrying about energy. Automate it with Otto Sergey. Compare the market. Keep life simple.
Customer preferences determine alerts based on tariff type, payment type, supplier rating, and minimum annual saving of £50.
Welcome aboard Europe's 169th safest airline.
You were like my 169th biggest crush in school.
Your total body age is 169.
The number 169 never screamed glamour until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487 and 50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
...single...
And gone!
...game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit...
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone!
Upgrade today.
What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at the futures this morning. We have seen a continuing amount of pressure that's been put on stocks this morning. At 6 a.m., we were looking at stocks that were down, 50 or so, but it started a very quick decline from there, and rapid decline. You're now looking at the Dow futures down by about 170 points. This is coming as there's a report out there suggesting that the White House is looking to limit the amount of Chinese stocks that would be allowed in U.S. government pension funds. All of this, of course, a precursor to what's happening Thursday when these trade talks with the Chinese continue, waiting for the vice premier to arrive here. But ahead of that, you have seen additional tensions that have ratcheted up between the NBA and China's quick stance on that. And some additional measures that the U.S. government is taking that look like they could be negotiating tactics ahead of that. Concern about that, again, has kind of bled through. You've seen it not only here, but in European stocks. This morning, the S&P futures are down by about 19 points. The NASDAQ off by 47. European stocks also under some additional pressure on a report from Reuters that said Angela Merkel had called Boris Johnson and told him that some sort of a settlement with Brexit was highly unlikely. European markets, you can see, have also weakened over the course of this morning. The DAX right now down by 1.1%. The CAC off by just over 1%. The FTSE down by a quarter percentage point.
And the U.S. consumer accounting for about 70% of the U.S. economy. And yesterday, Blackstone Group CEO Steve Schwarzman told CNBC the consumer is doing quite well, and that's far more important than the recent weak manufacturing data. Our next guest is here to give us a read on what he's seeing in his stores around the consumer, and maybe we can get into some of the geopolitical sports debates as well. Ed Stack is here. He bought 2 bait and tackle shops from his father in 1984, and he never looked back. Today, Dick's Sporting Goods is the largest sporting goods retailer in the country with over 800 locations and close to $9 billion in annual sales. And joining us right now to discuss the strength of the consumer and much more is Ed Stack, Dick's Sporting Goods chairman and CEO, and he has a book out. It's his first, and this is his first stop this morning. The book is called It's How We Play the Game, Build a Business, Take a Stand, Make a Difference. And we'll talk about some of those stands and stances in just a moment. But it has been a remarkable ride over all these years. But let's just talk about the health of the consumer right now, given what Steve Schwarzman said. Do you feel it?
Yeah, we feel the consumer is in pretty good shape. Our business is really good. Our last quarter, our comps were 3.2%. We increased our guidance again for the balance of the year. So, we feel the consumer is in pretty good shape.
Do you? I mean, we talk every day about China and about this trade war. Is it had any impact on your business at all in terms of any of the products that are coming in that are being imported?
Nothing meaningful right now. And when we took our guidance up, we indicated that anything that we thought could that would be impacted by tariffs was included in that guidance.
And the other piece of this is you may see consumer strength now, but do you say to yourself, okay, you read all the same reports we do. And everybody's, not everybody, but there's a vocal chorus saying a recession is coming, or at least a slowdown.
I'm not sure about that. I know that right now for our business, what we see, we're pretty excited about it. We're pretty excited going forward. And the things that we've seen from the people that we do business with, Nike, Adidas, Callaway and them, of what the product cycle is going forward, we're pretty enthusiastic.
Is it regional? Meaning, are there pockets where you say that there's parts of the country that seem materially stronger than
right now? We're doing really well coast to coast.
That's more positive than I potentially would have thought. Can we talk about the book for a second?
Sure.
I want to get to the stance, and I know we're going to talk about your stance on guns and what's that done to the business and the decision to do that and everything else. But more broadly, we did give the history of this little company.
Yeah.
If there's been one big lesson in all of this for you, it has been what?
The biggest lesson, and I talk about it in the book, is that you have to have people you have to have people around you who are really smart. You have to have people that you listen to. And I knew that right from the very beginning, because in 1984, when I bought the business for my father, the 2 stores, the very first thing I did was put together a board. And I had some people in Binghamton that were, a little wiser, a little older than I was, and asked them to join this board, and they were extremely helpful in helping us drive.
Is there a sporting goods competitor that you think about, or is it Walmart and Target or online, or? Because you're different. Most of those, what was it? What's the one with an M? Is it? They're in malls a lot. Modell's.
Yes. Okay. You're thinking Modell's or sport.
You're standalone.
Sports Authority. Everybody else out of business.
Right. So
we're in malls. We're in some malls. We're in some.
But you have the big standalone superstore.
Yeah, they're primarily in strip centers with with Best Buy and Walmart and Costco and all those.
So who do you worry about as far as that can sell everything you sell? And maybe be cheaper or online or digital or whatever?
Well, there's not many that sell all that we sell. We really look at this as we've got a broad competitive set. So in the athletic footwear business, we look at Foot Locker as our biggest competitor. If we look at the golf business,
a lot of apparel, don't you?
We sell a lot of apparel.
Nike apparel, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we're Nike's largest apparel retailer.
You are. You're Nike's
largest premium apparel retailer.
Okay. In order to receive federal funds, posted clips of them doing karaoke. They're taping the episode on October 11th, and it'll air early.
We haven't seen you in quite some time, and I wanted to ask you what you think the reaction has been, both on your business and in the investment community and more broadly, in the wake of Parkland, the stance you took around guns, taking them out of all the stores. What you think the real impact of that has been? Because I think there's a lot of CEOs in the world who looked at that, some of which agreed with you, some of which didn't, but all trying to gauge and understand sort of the implication.
Yeah. Well, when we did this, it was kind of it's a really divisive issue, and we had people who were really enthusiastic and happy with what we did, and we had a number of people who were really upset with what we did. And but from a stock price standpoint, really didn't have much of an impact on the stock price. Our team did a really great job of managing through that, and after we made the announcement, each of the 3 quarters after that, we actually raised our guidance.
With that being said,
stronger sales?
Well, the sales were not stronger. We kind of guided to what we thought it was going to be, and then the earnings were a little bit better, and I think people were really concerned about the impact that it could have, and the team did really a great job. But we said that we thought it would be about $250 million in sales that it would impact our business, and it was just about $250 million in sales that impacted our business.
And then in terms of transitioning the business, though, and using that space on the floor for other things, do you think you've ever gotten it back?
I think we're in the process of that. Well, yes, we have, because as I said, in the last quarter, we reported comps of 3.2%. Our EPS number was up, and we're re-looking at what we're going to do with the stores. Last year in the fourth quarter, we took all Hunt out of 10 stores. re-engineered that space for what was really...
Was that the sales shortfall you're talking about was just not selling that stuff, or was it that some people decided I'm not going to shop?
Some people decided I wasn't going to shop any longer.
Even for anything.
Yeah, not going
and
there.
And then on the flip side, though, do you think that you had, because you'd go online and you'd see it on Twitter and others, some people saying, I'm now going to shop, I'm absolutely going to shop at Dick's Sporting Goods, and then other people say, I'm absolutely never going to shop at Dick's Sporting Goods. How do you think that netted out?
More not than positive. More people didn't shop than actually came to shop.
And so when other CEOs look at what you did and say to themselves, I don't want to be in a position where more are not shopping with me than shopping with me, right?
Yeah.
How do you square it?
Well, I think you got to take it, what's the long-term effect on your business? And we looked at this from a long-term standpoint, and we thought this was absolutely the right thing to do for the company long-term.
I was trying to figure out, you're entitled to sell whatever you want. If you don't want to sell tents, don't sell tents. You don't need to sell anything there. But you've got to satisfy the board, and the board has to satisfy shareholders. So the shareholders vote for the board, and then the board decides whether to keep you employed or not. So do you know whether any shareholders voted with their feet and said, I'm out of here? Or any that said, gosh, I love Dick's, I'm gonna go in?
I can tell you, Joe, we never had any shareholder who called us and said...
And the board didn't have a problem. You cleared this with the board?
Well, we talked with the board. We had two conversations with the board before we ever decided to do this. So the shooting in Parkland happened on February 14th. We made our announcement on February 28th. Right. We were really thoughtful on how were going to go about this, what we were going to tell the street, what we were going to do. Our management team was very involved. Our board was very involved. And to your question a second ago, Joe, we never had one shareholder call and say, hey, what you guys did, I'm out. Flip side, we never had any shareholder who said, hey, you know what? Based on what you did, I love it. I'm buying your stock.
And we should point out, he was the first in terms of leading this in that Walmart, the largest retailer in the world and largest employer in the country, followed suit. It took some deaths in the store for that to take place, but nonetheless. So what do you say to other CEOs? There's a lot of CEOs now who have signed on to a number of efforts to both lobby in Washington, change rules, not sell guns, use their leverage in the system. What's your view on that?
I think if you see something that you think is a problem and you have an expertise in it, which we felt from a gun standpoint, we're one of the largest firearms dealers in the country. So we saw what the issues were, and we found out that we sold the kid in Parkland a shotgun 2 months before he did what he did in Parkland. It wasn't the gun that he used. But when we saw that, we said, this system is broken. We need to stand up and say something. So if you have an expertise in this and you feel that it's important to say, then you should stand up and say it.
Okay. Before we let you go, I do have to ask you about it just because it's the news of the morning. We've been talking about the NBA in China. You sell a lot of basketballs and NBA uniforms and all sorts of other things. Do you think that U.S. customers are looking at this and are going to be debating the sort of freedom of speech element of this and sort of coming out in support one way or the other?
We haven't seen anything yet. What's going to happen down the road, I don't know. But I think it's a tough situation. I think everybody's trying to do the right thing, and I hope they get it all worked out. What
happened in terms of when you were selling NFL gear, when Kaepernick was taking the knee and there was a whole issue around freedom of speech there?
Yeah.
You ended up selling probably more Kaepernick jerseys in the end.
It was kind of a wash. There were some people who were upset about that weren't going to buy them. Other people came and bought them, so it was kind of a wash.
Okay. We thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Congratulations on the book, Ed Stack. We appreciate it. The book is called It's How We Play the Game, Build a Business, Take a Stand, and Make a Difference. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
When we come back, what Wall Street is watching at the opening bell today, including producer price index data and trade negotiations with China. Squawk Box will be right back.
What gives me confidence about investment decisions?
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and V Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got off for the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487.50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
You don't just live in one room, so why should you Wi-Fi? With Sky Broadband's Wi-Fi guarantee, you'll get Wi-Fi in every room or money back. Perfect for food shopping in the bedroom, gaming in your PJs in the lounge, or streaming sci-fi movies in the kitchen. Get Sky's super-fast broadband and Wi-Fi guarantee. £32 a month for 18 months with $19.95 setup. Click on the banner now.
Sky Fibre errors, Sky Kit required. Refund on boost component of subscription paid during current minimum term up to date of claim. Minimum 3 megabits per second or money back. Prices may change during minimum term. See sky.com/guarantee.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the second-place NFC East New York Giants visit the first-place AFC East New England Patriots at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
It is long enough, and it is good!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Make sure to follow TuneIn today, so you're always in the know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search @TuneIn. Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Next time you look up at the stars, think about this. Inside you are the remains of a stellar explosion. You are made of stardust. And without the stars, there wouldn't be us. I'm Guy Raj, the wonders of the universe and the people who still look up every night. Next time on the TED Radio Hour from NPR. You can subscribe to the TED Radio Hour on TuneIn.
Coming up when we return, Chinese state media and Tencent suspending broadcasts of NBA preseason games amid controversy over support of the Hong Kong anti-government protests. We've got details on that in just a bit. As we head to a break, take a look at U.S. equity futures. We're in the red right now with the Dow looking like it would open off close to 200 points. Back in a moment.
This CNBC program is sponsored by SunTrust.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live. Regular season matchups and rivalry games. Conference championships and bowl games. The college football playoff.
Throw, he steps up, he's going deep down the right side. Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free.
The end zone, touchdown.
At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long free on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
Single...
And gone!
Game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone!
Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Remind you, Thursday night football is happening this week. 8:20 p.m. Eastern is kickoff. We've got the New York Giants at the New England Patriots. Now, to find it, search NFL, favorite your team so you don't miss any of the action.
The under center on the retreat, dropping back. He's pressured. He rolls right. He throws it down the right side for an open Bolden. Catches the 5. Into the end zone. Touchdown.
Make sure to favorite your team and search NFL. That way you don't miss any of the games. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. Taylor Swift tells Rolling Stone magazine that living a quiet life still causes drama. She says, "I decided I needed to live a quiet life. I didn't realize I was inviting people to feel they had the right to sort of play my life like a video game." Meanwhile, the Daily Mail claims Ed Sheeran has donated 18 pairs of his old slippers to charity. Most of the Nike, Dolce & Gabbana, Converse, and Air Jordan slippers are expected to sell for as much as $250 a piece. For music from Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, search today's hits on TuneIn.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Breaking news this morning. A lot of headlines out there, none of them making investors feel too good about the prospects for trade talks with China and the United States or with Brexit. A lot of things that have been happening. When we first came in at 6 a.m. Eastern time, you were looking at the futures weaker, but not nearly by this sort of levels. You were looking at the Dow futures down by about 50 points. Right now, they are down by about 200 points. We have seen steady weakening over the last hour and a half. A lot of this was stemmed by reports like this. White House looking to limit Chinese stocks in U.S. government pension funds. Also, some news that Angela Merkel potentially, this was a Reuters headline, that Angela Merkel called Boris Johnson and told him that Brexit talks would not be very likely. As a result, you've seen futures down here. You've seen European stocks down in the active trading that's taking place there. And then U.S.-listed Chinese stocks all weaker across the board as well. You can see the pound under some pressure on some of these potential talks, too. Right now, it's at 122.15. Again, all of this kind of happening, and it's been a steady trickle of headlines that are creating some unease when it comes to cross-border relationships and what it's going to mean for trade talks down the road. Joining us right now is Paul Hickey. He's the co-founder of Bespoke Investment Group. Also, Mike Santoli, who is CNBC's senior markets commentator. And Mike, we're waiting for these talks on Thursday, but none of these opening ploys, these negotiating tactics around it, are making people think that they're going to see much coming out of it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was tremendous hope for anything comprehensive coming out, but whatever optimism there was for some kind of a truce maybe is bleeding away. I think the Brexit headlines are significant too, and I think what you want to do now is keep in mind, yesterday the stock market didn't do a whole lot with a little bit of a rise in Treasury yields. Usually the pattern has been when the Treasury market relaxes, yields go up, stocks can follow. Didn't really happen. So I just think we're still knocking around this range. Last week's low, was about 2% below, 3% maybe below where we got to yesterday at the high. So I think it's still just kind of bleeding away some of whatever residual enthusiasm there was going to be for some kind of a deal.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, how much of this is left in the market at this point. Because if you saw really things end badly and nothing come out of this, how much more do you think the market would sell off versus if it looks like a bit of a truce when they walk away?
I still think the next round of tariffs is the thing that hangs in the balance. So the idea that would be imposed is probably the negative push. But if it's status quo, I don't think it's necessarily that big a deal for the outlook.
Do you think what's been done with the blacklisting, and now we just heard about the companies, is that another salvo? Were the Chinese viewed as a salvo?
Because it seems like it. I think there was a Chinese official saying, we're no longer calling this a special envoy. I mean, basically they're trying to pull any significance.
But it could flip in an instant. Again.
And the president yesterday saying, who knows on Hong Kong, at least in their mind, seeming to link those things. And maybe I don't think hopes are very high that they wanted to deal much.
Someone very, very optimistic he said, I know some people in Washington, Chris Campbell. And I'm saying, there's only so many people I could think he'd be talking about because he worked there. And he says, I'm very optimistic that something big happens.
Maybe it's just managing expectations. It's a rope.
We also decided that China maybe wanted Biden, but now that he's sort of faded, and Warren would be maybe tougher on China than
right.
Than
Trump.
I
don't know how much that calculus is getting played out just in the next few days.
Every week that goes by is closer to November of 2020, right?
It's true. We've got China as part of the issue. How much of that is you think the impact here?
Well, I think these headlines that we're talking about back and forth. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen with these talks by the end of the week. And B, this isn't going to get solved this week. So this is going to be a long-standing issue, but it's in both interest sides not to, just go full throttle and erase tariffs and go.
But the more complicated and the more tensions that build up, the tougher it is to kind of step back from those the stances that they've drawn.
Right, but I think it's in both sides' interest to come together. I mean, the Chinese services PMI 7-month low. I mean, China's just not like, sitting back and relaxing and enjoying a great economy with all this.
Sure.
So, but I think in the short term, the Brexit headlines, what really drove the futures lower this morning was news of the Brexit talks potentially falling apart. So I think that's an issue for the short term, and that's coming up at the end of the month. But, overall for the market, this is a very volatile time of year. Historically, mid-September to mid-October has been the worst time of the year for the market, like if you look back to 1980. So I think a lot of this is just, we had 20% in the first 3 quarters of the year. On October 1st, we saw selling. We had a weak ISM, but the magnitude of the miss in the ISM didn't warrant the type of sell-off we saw in stocks. And I think part of it is just profit-taking after three very strong quarters. And I think going forward for the remainder of the fourth quarter, there's nothing to suggest that we can't see at least average returns, which is positive for the year.
Right. The other backdrop to all of this is earnings. We're getting into earnings seasons, and this is when it's put up or shut up, and the street will take another close look at that.
Right. And, the consensus has already been driven down to about a negative 4% for the quarter. A lot is going to depend on whether that ends up being the trough. And it looks like, right now, based on consensus, it will be. Market has been nursed through this period of very flat earnings with this drop in Treasury yields, a turn by the Fed to be a little more accommodative. I guess that can last for a little while longer if, in fact, you still think you're getting a pickup. By the way, I don't think that the on-paper estimates of 10% growth for 2020 are really in the market at all. I mean, I think it's on paper. The analysts are saying that they haven't cut the numbers
yet. But the market's not a believer
But I don't
yet.
think the market right now necessarily is pricing that in.
And Paul, I'd be remiss not to bring up the idea that Jay Powell is speaking today, too, at NABE. And the Fed has been the huge issue. So which of these 3 major things, is there anything he could say that would either spook the markets or make them feel a lot better about things?
I mean, he could see, who knows what he could say. He could conceivably say something, go off script and, and cause some angst in the market. But I wouldn't expect to see too much. The Fed has gotten, the last couple of speeches by Powell have been much more choreographed and sticking to the notes. And so I don't expect much of a surprise there. Earnings season, I think, is coming up. Expectations have come in. Analyst revisions have been lowering forecasts a lot. To Mike's point, they constantly lower estimates as the results get closer and closer. Yeah. But the bar is set low heading into earnings season. As we get into October, and investors will be focusing on that. And I think we'll see pretty positive results overall.
Paul, thank you. Mike, great to see you.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, Boeing under pressure this morning after the Southwest Pilots Union sued over the grounding of the 737 MAX. We're going to speak to an analyst after the break. Squawk Box coming right back.
Up, we break down and then add up all the taxes proposed by presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren and tell you what it means for your money. And later, is President Trump winning in his war with Fed President Jay Powell? Those stories plus your latest headlines when Squawk Box returns.
Look at that. A riveting quest. A glorious opportunity. A scratch card. Yet he remains unfazed by the challenge, wavering at nothing.
Miss, please keep it down. We're in the quiet area.
Sorry. Here we are. The moment of truth as he reaches the end of...
Instant excitement with scratch cards from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here. Search Dream Big, Play Small. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
When travelling from the centre of London to the heart of Edinburgh, what's best? A plane or an LNER train? Well, there's a massive queue at the airport, so 1-0 trains. Free Wi-Fi on board, 2-0. Actually, the airport's miles away, and you have to take your shoes off in security. Minus points for planes. So, it looks like an LNER train is the winner. Thanks for playing, planes. That's London to Edinburgh for 4 hours and 19 minutes. Book direct at lner.co.uk.
You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got offered the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. iGo.
0% APR representative on new sales of iGo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487.50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Otto Sergey now checks for better energy deals so you don't have to. Meaning we can all sit back and relax. Can't we, Sergey? Sergey?
Hey? What?
Tell the people that we can sit back and relax.
Oh, we can sit back and relax.
Oh, don't waste energy worrying about energy. Automate it with Otto Sergey. Compare the market. Keep life simple.
Customer preferences determine alerts based on tariff type, payment type, supplier rating, and minimum annual saving of £50.
No one wants to get caught in the cold in London. We're with you. So our boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit to avoid a big chill to your wallet. You'll get a 5-year British Gas warranty. And now we can even quote by video call after work or weekends at a time that suits you. Get a quote by the 30th of November and get £150 off a new boiler or £450 off for existing home care customers. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
You don't just live in one room, so why should you Wi-Fi? With Sky Broadband's Wi-Fi guarantee, you'll get Wi-Fi in every room or money back. Perfect for food shopping in the bedroom, gaming in your PJs in the lounge, or streaming sci-fi movies in the kitchen. Get Sky's super-fast broadband and Wi-Fi guarantee. £32 a month for 18 months with $19.95 setup. Click on the banner now.
Sky Fibre errors, Sky Kit required. Refund on boost component of subscription paid during current minimum term up to date of claim. Minimum 3 megabits per second or money back. Prices may change during minimum term. See sky.com/guarantee.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Boeing trading lower right now. I want to show you what's going on here. We got a new report saying that friction between U.S. and European regulators could delay the return of that 737 MAX to service. Joining us right now on the Squawk Newsline is Carter Copeland of Milius Research to break it down for us. Good morning to you, Carter. Help us try to understand this Wall Street Journal article effectively saying that the European regulators are going to actually have a bigger say ultimately in what happens here than even the FAA. What do you know?
Well, I'm not sure it's a bigger say. I mean, frankly, a staggered return to service of the MAX has always been a scenario. Some, including myself, would argue it was the most likely scenario.
When you say staggered, meaning starting in the U.S. and then going elsewhere?
Yeah, I would say with a U.S. and FAA-based and a coalition of some of the world's other regulatory bodies, then followed by others.
Can I make an argument to you there, Carter? Carter, hang on for a second. My view, this is one man's view. If other regulators in the world don't approve the plane, but regulators in the U.S. do approve the plane, I think that Boeing is going to have a true challenge on its hands in terms of getting customers on those planes.
Yeah, Andrew, another man's view is if you get the plane to service in one major region, you will amass flight hours that show safe operation in pretty short order.
I just don't know if the American customer is going to want to be the guinea pig there. And the reason I'm saying this is my understanding of the Boeing strategy was to try to get all of the regulators around the world, especially international regulators, on board in a way to credentialize the plane and credentialize the FAA approving the plane, given that the FAA was the one that pushed as hard as it did the first time around.
Yeah, I think that is the most ideal scenario, but at the end of the day, the question is, these are somewhat black and white evaluations where you come up with a testing regime and then you test against the test points, and then once it's verified, it's verified. If other regulatory bodies say, I want a different testing regime, then it can take longer.
Carter, do you think that trade tensions will work their way into this matter as they seem to be working their way into everything these days?
Most definitely. The Boeing has been pretty clear about the trade tensions influencing, a lot here, whether it's the MAX or more importantly, wide body aircraft orders, which have kind of been held up as a part of this.
Real quickly, you buy or not?
I am, yeah.
And Carter, one more. Do you think that if European regulators do not approve the plane, that all U.S. airlines will actually put the plane back into service, especially ones that do business in Europe?
Well, your biggest operator in the U.S. is Southwest Airlines, has expressed that they have confidence in the plane. It's been clear that they've flown. I think Muhlenberg said 700 test flights. So I think yes, they will operate.
Okay, Carter Copeland, we will see where this all heads. We appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
All right, Squawk Box will be right back.
Coming up, we break down and then add up all the taxes proposed by presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren and tell you what it means for your money. And later, is President Trump winning in his war with Fed President Jay Powell? Those stories plus your latest headlines when Squawk Box returns.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Searching for a more memorable short break? Fly from London Heathrow to Cork from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus. Step off the plane and into a warm welcome in Cork. Surround yourself with breathtaking coastal views. Soak up the culture of Cork City or head to the colourful town of Kinsale and indulge in the best seafood around. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs. Like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky at Curry's PC World? T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. Kelsey Ballerini and Halsey are doing a CMT Crossroads together. And not surprising since Kelsey posted clips of them doing karaoke. They're taping the episode on October 11th and it'll air early next year. Speaking of country collaborations, Tim McGraw posted a video on Instagram of what looks like him and Shy Carter rehearsing in an empty arena. They're on stage performing their new song, Way Down. To hear music from Kelsey Ballerini and Tim McGraw, search Country Roads on TuneIn.
Futures are now down about 160 points. Started the morning down about 50 or so. We were down 200 at one point. This is all the latest from China and China trade and some of the moves being made on both sides in the ongoing negotiations, which we should get some more clarity on. When is October 10th? I think things start again in earnest. But the NASDAQ down 41, S&P indicated down 17.
It's hard to keep track of all the taxes proposed by Elizabeth Warren, so Robert Frank is here to break them all up and break it all down and add them all up. He's the man for the job on this.
Good morning, Becky. Well, she's got a plan for that, and she's got a tax for that. Elizabeth Warren has proposed 5 major new tax increases that add up to larger than the GDP of Switzerland. Now, the wealth tax, which is her most famous, of course, that's a tax of wealth over $50 million that would raise over $2 trillion over 10 years, or about $200 billion a year. And she's also got a Social Security tax that's even bigger. That would be a tax on investment income for high earners and a payroll tax for high earners split between employers and employees. That would raise an estimated $4.2 trillion over 10 years, or about $400 billion a year. Then you have the corporate profits tax. That's designed to make sure companies like Amazon who make profits pay a minimum amount of tax every year. That would be about $100 billion a year. And then there's the lobbying tax. That's the smallest. That's only about $1 billion a year.